Alright everyone, welcome back to the shop. I want to welcome all my new subscribers and welcome back all my existing subscribers. Hope everybody's enjoying my content. I got this project that originally I was not going to make a video on it. Mr. Pete had already done a whole series on building this little PM Research Dynamo, and I didn't want to steal his thunder, or I should say his lightning in this case, by doing another series on the same thing. But while I was planning everything out, I realized I was going to do several things differently, and like so many other things when you're doing this kind of stuff, there's 20 different ways you can go about getting the same operation done. So so this will be my take on how I went about building this little dynamo from PM Research. I had picked this kit up at the Cabin Fever Model Engineering Show in Pennsylvania this year. So so I finally got around to getting going on it, and if it's something you guys are interested in, I invite you to stick around and see how I... Alright, got to establish a flat reference surface on the frame housing here. So I'm doing a little bit differently than the way Mr. Pete did it on his build. The device I have here, the jaws are not very tall, so I'm not able to grab this by these edges here. So I'm grabbing it by these two faces, even though they're not machined yet. They are accurate enough, and what I went ahead and did was use these 1, 2, 3 blocks to get me started, and tightened it down. And then with my surface gauge, I went along a couple of spots, and to make sure that this was pretty much level this way, and also front and back this way. And this side here, it's barely touching that, and on this side here it's not touching, but the thickness of this part of the casting is a little bit thicker than this side. Hard to get my it's about 10,000ths of an inch difference here. So, and this is a casting, so you really can't get a great reading on this, but about 418 and about 400. So and it varies a little bit from one side. From this point here, 418, that's pretty good actually. I mean, measuring on this rough casting. 411, so 7,000ths across this for a casting. I don't think it's terrible. That's 401. So the point I'm trying to get to is that this will be milled down, and so this will be the part that will be remaining. So I'm trying to wind up with this being close in thickness to this side. So this is touching a little bit and the other side is not. I think we're going to wind up pretty close that way. And I did the same thing with the bore here, which is still, it's a rough casting, but you know, this is right about there. And then when I did the other side, it's like right there as well. So all right, so enough of that, and let's get making some chips here, and okay, I'm using my carbide end mill here, so we'll get going in a couple of minutes. Okay, so that's all cleaned up. That's came out pretty good. And all right, bring it back in a little bit. All right, next we're gonna face the top of this boss off. That's where the lifting eye will go eventually. And I just got this sitting down on the bottom of the vise, and when I tightened it down, this was kind of rocking around a little bit. It's not, you know, everything wasn't straight with everything. When I would tighten this, it would kind of tweak this out of position. So I put some copper wire in there and tightened it down. And I just got to take a little bit off this, just flatten that off. And so we got that all tight, and happy with the way that is. And just take a little shave off of that. Alright, so the next step now, first we started with getting the bottom of the base flat and established, that's our reference surface, and the top of the boss, milled that flat, clean that up. And now we're going to start, we're going to face each end of the frame here. So now, I didn't want to put all the pressure on that little boss there. That wouldn't be much to grab, so I got this V-block set up in here, as you can see. Got the reference surface against the fixed jaw, and took a square, and you know, once again, it's a casting, it's not a very smooth finish, but check this for squareness on each edge, and I'm pretty happy with how that is. So we'll come across here, we'll just get this cleaned up. There's not a whole lot of material we have to remove from here. The overall length of that frame has to be a little over 1.5 inches, 1.56. So there's not a whole lot to work with that. So I got my big fly cutter in there, and I'll just run this across just till this is cleaned up, one smooth surface. Okay, that's pretty good. I'll get this flipped over. Now I can put this on some parallels and machine the other side. Okay, now with the first side cleaned up, I got that down on some parallels. Pretty much the same setup with the V block pressing up against the fixed jaw here, and pressing up against the frame, and the back surface, the bottom surface against the fixed jaw. So we'll get this on. So I'm probably putting way too much thought and effort into this, but you know, every time I do a project or I make something, I always try to get my tolerances a little tighter, work a little bit more accurately, and it's just good practice for when something comes along that you really need to be spot on. It just helps develop your skills. So the frame has got to have an overall length of 1 inch and 560 thousandths, a little bit larger than 1.5 inches. So as you can see, this lifting eye boss is well, what I'm trying to do is get this trimmed down so that the lifting eye will be in the center. So as you can see, this comes out here. That's not really round, it's kind of ovalish, but I got a center punch mark pretty much in the middle of that boss. And so we got to take off about 156 thousandths to bring us to the length it needs to be here. So what I went ahead and did, let me unlock this here. The center from the bottom here now, it's just about just about 850 thousandths to where the center of that eye would be. So from each end, it's got to be 780 thousandths. So from here, I got to take off 70 thousandths off of this one side, and then from this side down, I got to take off 86 thousandths. And I figured that was just simple math, just simple subtraction, just using the height gauge. Alright, so like I say, you'll probably put a whole lot more effort and work into this than really it needed to be, but you know, and I have it marked here. So this side here has got to come down 86 thousandths, and when I put it the other way, take 70 thousandths off, and that should bring us down to the 1.56 that it needs to be. So I'll get back over to the mill. I'm going to do that off camera. Well, this cast iron is nice to machine, but what a mess. And I kind of like to stay on top of keeping things cleaned up around here. But alright, let's get over to the mill again and continue on. Okay, so I got the boring bar set up, and similar how Mr. Pete did it, I just eyeballed it. I went around and centered everything, and of course, as you know, it's a rough casting, rimming the bore here from the core, and so just got it centered, I zeroed my digital readout just to make sure I stay on stay centered, and it's the hole right now. It's just shy of 1 inch diameter, and I think I said before it's got to get opened up to 1.333, well, 1 1/3 inches. So I'll probably start on camera, and then I'll work at that and bring you back when I'm going to make the last pass or two. So I got that pretty much set up, and let's take a 5/1000 cut here, and see how it goes. Alright, so as you can see, I've been working on that, and I got about another 15 to go, and that'll bring me to the 1 inch and 333 thousandths that we need. So last pass. Alright, so I got a notice from YouTube that they were blocking my video for a copyright infringement. It turns out that the song that was playing in the background on the radio, well, I guess they took offense to that. So for the next couple of seconds there'll be no audio except for me doing a voiceover here. And I'm just cleaning the bore and using a telescoping gauge to measure the inside diameter. So I got we're right on there. It's 25 and 8 is 33. So all right. So couple more things to do on this, mostly drilling operations. The mounting holes, the hole for the eye bolt, for the lifting eye, and later on, after we get the end bells done, we'll transfer those holes and drill and tap for the end bells. So I'm going to wrap up this video for now and bring you back when we get started on the end bells. So I think we're going to start on that next. So